if you're like me and you want to know like what's going on, I'm going to talk for about 6-7 minutes. Then we'll open it up for some questions and answers. And I've seen Melody ask questions before, so I'm expecting that to be rather vigorous tonight, which is good. Look, my name is Greg Weyer. Obviously, I'm running for judge. I'm a criminal defense attorney here in Philadelphia. I've been doing that ever since I graduated from Temple Law School. You met my better half, Sarah. She's a social worker here in the city. She got her master's in social work from Penn. She's working there now at the Field Center for Children's Policy, Practice, and Research. We have a foster daughter. Our daughter's name is Jasmine. She's 19. She's a freshman at Penn State, where other than freezing her ass off the last 2 weeks, she's doing really well, and we're really proud of her and what she's accomplished. As a criminal defense attorney, I've had the fortune and the honor of representing hundreds of clients in hundreds of cases over the years. And I learned two things really quickly in my profession. One is that the judges matter a lot. And the second thing I learned was that the system really has a way of just chewing people up and not letting them go. And it's nowhere more evident that both of these things exist at the same time than when you look at the many problems with the criminal justice system, problems that I know many of you are well acquainted with, whether we're talking about cash bail, junk science in the courtroom, sentencing structures that are far removed from restorative justice, unbalanced and racist policing, cell phones going off in the courtroom, unbalanced and racist. I should make sure my phone's turned off now too. All right, I'm good. And when you look at these problems, there really are two kinds of judges. There are the judges that are keeping the status quo what it is and are perpetuating these issues, and there are the judges that are part of the efforts that we're seeing on a national scale, really, but especially now in Philly, to bring us to a new era in, I always mess that word up, era? I said that right? In justice, a new era in bringing more fairness and justice into the criminal justice system here in Philly. And the more I was in front of the former kinds of judges, the ones that were part of the problem in my career, I started to wonder more and more why it was that I was on the near side of the counsel table as opposed to up on the bench where the judge sat. Because for me, like, criminal justice isn't just a theory. It became a passion. It became a lifestyle. Because when I think of criminal justice, I think about sitting down in the basement of the Roundhouse, which is the Philadelphia Police Headquarters, and looking through the wiry mesh into the eyes of a man who had just been wrongfully arrested on allegations of murdering his infant daughter. I think about the many hours I spent up on State Road, sitting down with clients, many of whom are waiting trial, most of whom in the most vulnerable times of their lives. I think about sitting down with the Victim Services Unit of the DA's office, working to ensure the safety of a client of mine who was also a witness and a victim on another case. But all these experiences being what they are, I'm going to switch gears. Because as much as my time in criminal defense is a large reason why I'm running for judge, it's actually my identity as a foster dad that was the final catalyst for why I'm running for judge this year. When Sarah and I started, or fulfilled, I should say, our long-held plan to become foster parents, we wanted to be a home for teenagers. And there was two reasons. One, that was the age group that we felt the most able and equipped to help and empower. It's also the age group with the most need, because a lot of foster homes won't take in teenagers. It was funny, Jasmine moved in, she was 17, and she said, I'm only going to be here a little bit, I'm going to turn 18, I'm going to sign myself out of care. And we were like, okay, whatever you want to do. And then about a week before she turned 18, she's like, what if I stayed? And we're very happy she made that decision, and it's been an honor to still have her in our lives. So it doesn't take too much research into the local or national data to see that we as a society are failing foster kids. And by any metric you want to hold up, foster kids as compared to non-foster kids are falling behind and generally speaking have worse prospects in life. And it didn't take me too long as a foster dad to see that it's the court system and the judges that were part of that problem. Philadelphia's Education Law Center just came out with a study in which they advocate for redefining of the roles of judges in Philadelphia's family courts. If I were elected as a judge, I would see it as my responsibility, to the extent that it would be within my jurisdiction, to be part of that redefining process, to make sure that again, if I were a family court judge, that I was doing what I needed to do to make sure that the kids in the family courts had the tools that they needed to succeed as they aged into adulthood, and that the families in the family court system were given the tools that they needed to be reunited with their kids as soon as possible, as safely as possible. Now, I can't promise you I'd be in family court. I can't promise you I'd be in criminal court. If you're elected as a judge in the city, you're assigned to a courtroom by the administrative judges. What I can say is that the combination of my experiences as a criminal defense attorney and my identity as a foster dad that has given me something unique and powerful and good that I want to bring with me to the Philadelphia bench. And that something is rooted in recognizing the dignity and rights of all people. And that something will always force me and help me, make me strive to seek fairness and restorative justice in every case in my courtroom. And that's why I'm running for judge. So again, I'm open for questions.
So I'm really excited for your campaign. I think that people often think about social justice through legislation, and they don't think about the courts as being part of advocating for the rights of different individuals and communities. And obviously minority communities have been largely neglected, right, not taken full advantage of, particularly in the criminal courts. As a judge, how do you plan to, in your style in the courtroom, address racial bias?
I'm going to preface it with saying judges, they play a role, I think, in setting an atmosphere where these conversations can happen more. But a lot of the systemic issues do need to happen on the legislative level between city council and state reps and state senators and so on and so forth. Where a judge comes in is how a judge uses discretion. And that is more on a case-by-case basis, a family-by-family basis. You know, every situation is different, every case is different. And what is a judge doing to look at the totality of circumstances that are in front of them to really make more well-informed decisions? And part of that would be taking a look at the role that racial bias has played historically and how it plays, you know, on an individual case-by-case basis today. And understanding that even, you know, look, I feel like, you know, I've taken a very hard look at my own life, my own biases as I've, you know, been able to age. But always being aware that, look, I need to constantly my own biases and confront those and make sure that I'm being truly fair and truly just and taking things into account, you know, in the cases that would be in front of me.
How do you view risk assessments in the current system of probation and parole?
Risk assessments are obviously problematic for the racial bias issue, that they will likely include some racial bias and how, you know, what you put in and what comes out. You know, there will be a racial, you know, error for sure. I don't know, because again, risk assessments that I've seen are mostly coming up in the area of trying to get a new bail system in, right? So if we are going to do away with cash bail and we're going to replace it with something else, such as more of like, you know, a system either you have the right to bail or you don't, I really do think it still needs to be left in the judge's discretion, and there are going to have to be guidelines given to the judges in how they evaluate whether bail is appropriate or not on a case-by-case basis. But generally speaking, I think any wholesale, you know, we're going to put data into a computer and we're going to deal with the result. I mean, it's the same thing with mandatory minimum. So why have a judge, right? The point of a judge is to be able to use their discretion in a way that's fair. And any computer model, any mandatory thing that you do there's always going to be that case that's going to be the exception to the rule, right? And if we're really going to be fair on a case-by-case basis, then we can't have that. Probation and parole, I mean, all the studies that have come out show that our probation tails are absurd. They're absurdly long. They're absurdly unnecessary. It's a waste of resources. It's a drain on the city. It's unfair to the individuals that are on probation for these long tails. Because like one thing happens, and again, you're jammed up in the system again, or the technical violations, or the drug testing. It's onerous, and it's really set up for people to fail. And if we look at what we know on recidivism, if someone can do a year or two of probation, they don't need the other 12 years. You know, especially if someone's doing a 5 to 10, they have 5 years of parole. why are we giving them 10 years of probation after that? If you walk off state parole, you're good. I mean, so what are we doing but just, again, jamming up the system and using resources that really need to be put somewhere else as a society than just like keeping government control over people that really don't need it, because it's disruptive to their lives and it holds them back. It's hard to go live like a normal citizen who served your debt to society, who's now a returning citizen. Well, let them be a returning citizen, not someone that's stuck and has to go see a probation officer once a month. And then what are we doing? So I really don't see a point to some of the probation tales that we're seeing right now, even still. And some judges just love it though.
Of course, there's a rising movement for the legalization of marijuana and the decriminalization of commercial sex work. Where do you stand on those issues?
So it does get a little bit into an area that I need to be careful, like coming down, especially on camera, because I could be grounds for recusal and stuff like that. So judges have to be really careful, like in saying definitively what their position would be. I can say that I would call myself a very progressive person. I don't, so you can kind of read into that what you want. My thing with marijuana is it is amazing how many times police officers smell marijuana and don't find any evidence of it. I mean, it's crazy. And so to me, that's the biggest problem I have with how marijuana still, even as a summary offense, it still gives rise to all these bogus searches and seizures, and the judges that let the officers get away with that really bothers me. It's like, whatever. As far as I do think what we're seeing though with I know there's Project Dawn. There are a lot of programs, diversionary programs that I think are hopefully be more used for sex work and trying to help women in sex work that maybe don't want to be there and things like that. I haven't seen a lot of prosecution of sex crimes cases or prostitution cases in my career. Last one I had was probably going back about 4 or 5 years.
What do you think about what's going on right now with the mental health issue in your system? You have any ideals on what we could do because it's really crazy.
No, it's bad.
Mental health in Philadelphia.
I've had multiple clients with mental health issues that it's like the system didn't know what else to do with them, so they just get jammed up in prison. And then even more so, I had a woman who was an RCF who they put in the hole twice because her mental health issues were causing her to act out, and that was
Isn't that going to make it worse?
completely absurd. Yeah, right, exactly. It's self-defeating.
Even more, she'll come out even more screwed up.
Yeah. It was really wild and not in a good way. It's a good question. For me, like those kind of issues, there are a number of organizations that are doing really good work in criminal justice in this city. So for me, it would be like finding the organizations that are doing work on that and sitting down with their leadership and being like, hey, what would you want the court to do? In an ideal world, what makes the most sense? And what programs are out there that are actually serving, the mentally ill or handicapped community to give them what they need and to have the system serve them better and be fairer, as opposed to just like locking them up because we don't know what else to do. Because that's obviously not a good answer. But yeah, it's definitely a problem. It's definitely a problem.
So we agree.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah, no doubt.
It'd be malpractice if, as a treasurer, I didn't at least mention the fact that campaigns are very expensive, and any support that people are willing to do, if you like anything that Greg was saying, you can give me a check, meet me on the side, whatever, or if you go to GregoryWeyer.com, there's a donate button, lets you go and do it via, I believe, a credit card and PayPal online. So anything you can donate, even small amounts, are all helpful. So thank you very much.